Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on Moneycontrol. I am Stacey Pereira and today we're here to understand what exactly is a switch off from work policy. You heard me right, amidst this whole debate that has sparked off after Niren Murthy of the founder of Infosys urged youth of the country to work for about 70 hours a week, right from the who's who of India to even the common citizen of the country stands pretty much divided on this issue, we could say. But amidst all of this, we also have Motilal Oswal Financial Services, which is one of the largest Indian broking and financial services firm, which has come out and rolled a policy which is called switch off from work, especially post your working hours. Now, this encourages not only a strictly 8-hour working week. Let's try and understand what is the rationale behind this policy and what really does it entail. And to join me to understand this is Niren Srivastava, the Group CHRO at Motilal Oswal Financial Services. Thank you so much, sir, for giving us your time and speaking with us here at Moneycontrol. Let's first get to exactly what this policy is. And, it comes at a time when we are debating what really is the ideal work hours one should be putting in. Tell us what this policy is about straight up.
Well, Stacey, the policy is pretty simple as it says switch off. And what do we mean by this is that, we have employees working in 8.5 hour shifts. The objective is very clear that once the office hours are done, that is, you have a grace period of 30 minutes, 35 minutes maximum. We want people to switch off from work. And to aid that process, we have done 2-3 things, which is that after the shift timing and 30-35 minutes of that shift timing, typically people end their shifts at about 6:30 at the max, 7 at the max. By let's say 7 or 7:30, 92% of the employees of our organization, which is about close to 11,000 people, the emails are shut down, which is we want them to switch off from emails. And then we also have this arrangement wherein the HR and the admin teams, they ask people to go home, to go out of the office. We simply go out on floors and request people to, wind up work and leave. So that is simply put the switch off policy, which we were discussing for a while now, but I think glad that we could implement it at Motilal Oswal.
Right, but is there a science behind it, or what was really looked into, and how is this going to be monitored going forward? What is the plan that you all have in place?
I think there is no science behind it. I think it is pretty simple. People, while this concept of work life has been existing and we have been talking about it in the corporate world, what we mean by this is, and what we want out of this, and the idea is to keep it very simple. We want people to come to office on time, right? Because you should start, and we are a company, we are an organization which is very, very directly and closely related to the market. So we want all people to come to office in time, give their best and their productive best in the 8.5 hours, which you have at work, and then go home in time to spend, a good amount of time with their, family and loved ones. It is as simple as that. And that was the idea when we implemented this.
Right. So let's go back to, how this debate started. And we do know that Mr. Niren Murthy was the one in a podcast who went on to say that, he urges the youth to be putting in at least 70 hours because if we want the country as a whole to develop. Now, he's not saying this for a particular sector, and each one may have varied. In fact, India Inc. has come out quite vocally after that statement. And, there are two sides to this story now. Clearly, one would look at your policy and say that, you all are trying to break that chain, and corporate culture shouldn't be something that encourages people to spend so many hours at work. But of course, there is that other debate of having people to learn at work and what all comes with actually spending those hours in the office. So your policy clearly states that rationale, but if you have to play devil's advocate and look at the other side, do you think it is justified to then be putting in that many hours?
if you see, Mr. Naran Murthy is a very, very respected, all of you know, is a very, very respected person, and all of us respect him a lot. But I think if you look at it, and if you just simply look at the calculation of this, I think one point which we also mentioned a while back, and we did discuss, is that it is what time of the day when your actual work starts. The notion is that your work starts when you reach your office desk and you log in the system, and then you start working, and it ends when actually you log off or sign off from work. Actually, the way we look at it, and if you come to think about this, is when people actually pack their bags in the morning, and they walk up to a station in big cities, or take a cab, or start their drive towards work. And that is about 1.5 hours. That is a good, you can say, 45 minutes to 1.5 hours, and that is specifically in the larger, bigger metro cities, right? And the same routine happens in the evening. So 1.5 hours, Stacy, in the morning, 1.5 hours typically in the evening, which is in itself 3 hours. So you cannot, disassociate these 3 hours from the 8.5 hours. And that's why we are saying that what Mr. Murthy has said and what we are saying is actually the same thing. The only, maybe the difference is the way you look at it. Because we are also talking, if you have a 5 days a week, and you have 11.5 hours, you're talking about essentially 56 hours in a week. Plus, if you have a 6 days a week, you're essentially talking about 65 to 66 hours a week, right? So I think there are no two sides to it. It's the way you look at it, and it is the way one wants to balance the needs of work, organization, and most importantly, from a human resources perspective, I am an HR professional. The needs of the people who are coming and working with you.
Right.
If you want people to be productive, and if you want people to be fresh and engaged during those meetings, during that work, or whatever you do at work, I think the freshness of the mind is very important, and I think the productivity equation simply comes out of that.
Right. So with your policy, will it then, force others to also follow suit, or give it some kind of premise or precedent? Because now people, even the employees will go out saying, there are people who are implementing this. Why shouldn't my company do that? So are we going to see some kind of shift there, and, pretty much other organizations being forced to have a policy as such?
I can only say that if this policy at Motilal Oswal, helps people across, the board, across industries to get the right work-life balance, but at the same time, keeping in mind, the needs and demands of both the sides, right? Which is the organization and the employee both. I think the purpose will be well served.
Right. I think one of the other common factors, or at least that was debated, was the fact that, okay, fine, somebody puts in more number of hours, but are they compensated in the same way? Because it is fine for somebody who's a fresher to actually go in and put in those hours, but how does the compensation also work? And as an HR professional, maybe you can throw some light on that, not just about Motilal Oswal, but how is that really calculated then?
See, Stacy, compensation is a throughput of two things. The compensation is a throughput of one, which is the input, which is how much effort one is putting, at his or her work, and the second thing is the output which one generates. And if you talk about this in the parlance of performance management systems, it is about how much input and how much output are your KRAs, or key result areas, measuring. Now, organizations have to take care of both the aspects, and at the same time, organizations have to take care of the person who is delivering on, who is working on those KRAs and delivering on the job. So I think overall it is the way you look at it, and the way you embed in your culture and in your performance management systems, which ensures that a initiative like this, a policy like this, is successful in the truest sense.
Right. And now, do you plan on adding more to this policy? Like, you've started with just restricting and shutting off emails post-work hours. Is there anything else that is a plan that could add to this switch off from work policy?
Yeah. So in phase 2, Stacey, we are contemplating if we can extend this to a few applications or systems which our people using. And I think we want to monitor this still early days. The response has been very good, but I think we would want to monitor this for I think 60 days, 70 days, maybe a quarter or so, and then extend it to some of the applications, because eventually people are working and logging in or doing business or even support functions working on these applications. So we will take a review maybe after 45 days or so, and then take a call. But at the same time, we have to be also, and we are very conscious of the fact that we are in the business to serve customers, right? And the customer demands and the customer needs. And we are a financial services conglomerate which is spread across 7-8 lines of businesses. So you have to always ensure that the customer needs are well served. Then you have regulators, and there are things which always keep coming, many times at the last moment. So I mean, we have to ensure that we maintain a fine balance of this policy with the needs and demands of the business.
Right. Well, it was great chatting with you, Niren Srivastava, the CHRO at Motilal Oswal, giving us that perspective of why they decided to introduce this new switch off from work policy, and of course this debate on how much work is too much work and how much work is not is always going to continue. But so thank you so much for giving us your time and giving us your perspective, and to all our viewers who've tuned in, thanks so much for watching.
Thank you.